Hello again, it's Everard Junction, and this is just a general layout update. I've done a couple of things that I thought you might want to see. There's not a massive amount of progress because I've been working so much on the signal down here, but there's a few bits and pieces that I figured you'd probably want to see. So the first thing, some of you may have noticed, this area is looking a little bit more green, a little bit more sort of natural, and that's because I've added quite a lot more shrubbery and trees onto the landscape. I've also filled the back, this top edge here as it joins the back seam. I've added some extra scenery in there to get rid of some of the white plaster that you could see, and I think it looks quite good. The second thing I've done is I have resprayed one of my Class 37s. It's the second one here. Believe it or not, this was the Intercity liveried 37 that I used to have on the layout. I didn't use it particularly often because that particular 37 was based sort of towards Scotland, and generally most Intercity 37s were sort of more of a Scottish region loco. The layout's based between Reading and Didcot, so it didn't really fit. So what I've done is I've resprayed it into the original rail freight logo, minus the red stripe, and I have changed the number to a 37 that would have been seen more commonly in that area. We've also got 58 struggling over here. It's getting a bit of wheel slip because the train it's pulling is so heavy. The Helgen 58 doesn't have its axles driven in the middle, so it does struggle when the track's being cleaned, which is what's happening at the moment. You'll see the 20s driving around cleaning the track. That's going to stop again. I might have to lighten the load a little bit on that one or change loco. I've parked up the 58 and swapped it for something with a little bit more power in the form of this Hornby 56. Seems to be going up the helix no problem at all, even though the rails are quite slippery at the moment due to track cleaning. As you can see, there's a lot of hoppers on this train, so it's understandable why the 58 struggled. I'm going to try and repaint some of these hoppers into the more recent livery, which is this one here. These are some of the new Bachmann models, and these are some of the older ones. I'd like to paint some of them. I've also done some renumbering. You remember my 47 I showed you in the last layout update? I've renumbered it into a 47 that would have been more commonly seen around the sort of Reading and Bristol sort of area. This one, I can't even remember what number I painted that one, but I have adjusted the livery slightly to make it look like one of the ordinary rail freight 47s. So as it comes round, you'll notice, those of you that are familiar with the model you can get at the moment, the white stripe above the red stripe I have taken off, and I've also moved the rail freight sort of Intercity arrow symbol further down the loco into the more usual place. Also, as usual with all the stuff I tend to do, I've weathered it. Haven't gone too crazy on this one, just tried to make it look nice and realistic. Used lots of pictures with that one. I think it's come out really well. Also re-weathered the roof of my University of Leicester 47. The roof was still quite light. I wanted to sort of darken it up a little bit after seeing some pictures. I also had a little scratch on the roof, not sure where it came from, but I was able to paint that out. So that's just looking a bit darker on the top now. Looks quite good. So here's a quick look at the 37s. At the front is just a standard Bachmann model, 37506. You can pick it up in most stores. It has been weathered though, it doesn't come like that out of the box. And the one behind it is the 37 that I have repainted as of yesterday. And as I say, this was my Intercity livery loco, so I removed all the old numbers and logos, tried to get the stripes off as best I can so they don't show through. And then using some pictures, I painted it into 37692, which could be seen sometimes around the Didcot, Bristol, sort of Cardiff area. Certainly was in a couple of shots. And I haven't got a loco in the original rail freight livery. which doesn't have the red stripe on the bottom. You can see the loco in front has the red stripe, and they just look slightly different. I think it's come out really well. One of my better resprays. Looks really good. Okay, so the main sort of focus of this update is the signal, and I'm just going to run through a couple of the bits and pieces that I have used and roughly how it works. This isn't going to be a how-to. If there's enough interest, I'll do a how-to later on. This is not easy, very difficult. You have to have a good understanding of electronics. You have to have some idea of how to program a chip, and you need to be very good at soldering. It's not, an entry-level job. It's not easy. If it is too daunting for you, there are off-the-shelf products that make this possible. So you can just go out and buy the items you need to get the automatic signalling to work. However, it's expensive, hence why I have done it myself. So at the moment you can see this 3-aspect signal is on green aspect, and the 47 is just about to pass, and it goes straight to red. So how does it do that? Well, there's two things. There's an infrared sensor in the track, and underneath the loco there's a little bit of tin foil which reflects the infrared light. So if you look down here, you can see there are two bulbs, for want of a better word, and they're basically LEDs. The one at the bottom is an emitter, so coming out of that is infrared light. It's coming out the bottom, it's going straight up into the sky. Just opposite it is a phototransistor, and that gives you a signal whenever it receives infrared light. So at the moment the light's bouncing straight up into the ceiling, so we're not going to get any result. So the signal is just cycling through its preset program. However, if it was to receive a signal, for example now, if it was to get an input from a passing train, it would revert back to red. And it does that because as the train passes over the top of the sensors, the infrared light that is going up into the ceiling bounces off the tin foil on the bottom of the train. It's reflected, basically, and it goes into the receiver. That receiver then sends a spike of input to my little Pickaxe microcontroller. It's basically just a little electronic chip on a circuit board. I'll show you that in a minute. And that then interrupts the sequence it's running through and proceeds to perform the appropriate function. So if we look again, the 37s are just about to go over. First one passes over the foil, and there you go. Straight to red. There'll now be a 30-second period before that goes to yellow, and yellow waits 30 seconds before going to green. If yellow is interrupted by a passing train, it reverts back to red, and the 30-second timer begins again. The circuit also features a manual override switch. So, for example, this branch line is bidirectional. That means both directions can be used, because DMUs will approach the station and also depart from the station, so they're welcome to come in and go out along this line. The two main lines over there are restricted to east and west running. Okay, so in terms of off-the-shelf items, the signal is made by a company called Traintronics. Some of you may have seen them at exhibitions. They usually have a stand at various exhibitions, and they make really nice stuff, really nice little signals. I was a little bit worried about doing the signalling, because there's lots of people that make them in varying degrees of sort of ready to run. Some are basically kits, others are made of brass, some are made of plastic, some use LEDs, some use bulbs, some are really expensive, some are quite cheap, and it's quite a minefield. But I saw the Traintronics ones at a reasonable price on Hattons. I thought, well, I'll buy 2 or 3 and give them a go, and I have to say, apart from a little bit of light bleed, they are exceptionally good. So when you buy a Traintronics signal, these are the DC variety, by the way, they're a little bit cheaper. You basically get your signal, it's pre-assembled, that's how it comes out of the box. This is a little 2-aspect signal. If I can get the camera to focus. There we go. That's how it comes out of the box. I would recommend painting the mast, which I will be doing. And it also comes with like a number plate and identification transfer, which you can stick on. I haven't got around to doing that yet. You have some very, very thin wires coming out the bottom, and they are covered in a special coating that allows them to not conduct, so they won't short out when they're touching each other, and they're also coloured, so you can wire them up fairly easily. They also come with this. This is a fading interface board, just allows the light to change a little bit slower. Out on the real world, when a signal changes from one aspect to another, it's not instant. If you watch a traffic light at the end of the street, it goes kuchung as it changes. It's not an instant sort of flash. So this just slows down the electrical signal a little bit, makes them just look a little bit more prototypical, and it comes, you know, in the box. So for ordinary DC operation, you would have the signal going into the fading interface board, and it would then go into a two-way switch. So this wire would be the earth, that one would be red, and that one would be green. So you just have a little two-way switch, and depending on which way the switch was flicked, it would either be red or green, and you could operate it manually and it would work very well. Okay, so what I've done is a little bit different. We've got the signal goes into the fading interface board, the outputs of the fading interface board that would go to a switch ordinarily, or your DCC system if you wanted to control the signals via an accessory decoder. Instead of going to those two places, they go into this little circuit I've made. This is the first prototype. The final version, which is under the baseboard, looks slightly different, but it serves the principle well enough. So basically you have a pickaxe microcontroller. Those of you who are into pickaxes, this is an 18M2. I used it because it can run more than one program at the same time, which is quite useful for the signal detection when it's at yellow. So you have your pickaxe controller, which you program using a little programming board it comes with, attached to your PC running the appropriate software. That then goes into the three resistors in the middle that are stacked sort of in a diagonal style. Each one of those resistors is an output to the signal into the fading interface board. The resistor closest to the chip is an earth, for want of a better word, and the signal, or the resistor just there, is the resistor for my reset switch. And then you have various other wires to link it all, the plus and minus. Underneath it all looks a bit crazy. There you go, so you've got all the soldering in there. It's all a bit mental. But it works really well. I've got some little docking stations now, so I can actually take the chips in and out and alter the program should I wish to change it. There's your reset switch I was talking about earlier. And you also have it linked to a power supply. You can see the two terminals over there. And there's even more stuff. There's also an input which comes from your little infrared sensing system over there. So there's quite a lot going on. It's quite a complex little circuit, but it works really well. If you just want something to change the colour of the signal automatically without having to dial up an address on your DCC controller and then select which aspect you want the signal to display by which time the train's already gone past, it works really nicely. And also, if you don't want to go down the full-blown route of computer control, which I don't want to do because I enjoy driving the trains myself, just nice just to have them displaying the correct light and changing as the train goes past. Makes it really nice when I'm filming the layout, and is pleasurable to watch as well. It's just a bit complicated, that's all. Just in case you were wondering, the signal does work very well in the dark. See, it's on caution at the moment, goes straight to red. You can also see the infrared LED just underneath the carriages. The camera is picking up the infrared light. You can't see this with the naked eye, but that's the infrared light coming out of the infrared LED. So at the moment it's just going straight up in the sky, and it's not going to affect anything, and then as soon as a train goes over it, it gets reflected off the bottom. Just thought I'd show you under the layout in the fiddle yard while it's dark. Slowly progressing with the coach lighting.